Webster School Committee to order and ask that we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. First item on the agenda, I will entertain a motion to approve our meeting minutes from April 10th, 2018.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item on the agenda, I will entertain a motion to approve but not release our executive session meeting minutes from March 15, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item on the agenda is the approval but not release of our January 23rd, 2018 executive session meeting minutes.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. And the last item on the agenda is the approval but not release of the January 9, 2018 executive session minutes. I'll entertain a motion as such.
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Before we continue with the rest of the agenda, this evening is a bittersweet moment for me, at least. For those of you that are unaware, Mr. McCara is not running for re-election. He has served on this committee for only 18 years. I did speak with Mr. Craver, the town clerk, although it's difficult to figure out exactly how long people have served because it's not computerized. We both believe that at least in the last 30 years, if not longer, that is the longest serving school committee member. This is only my 4th year, so I can't imagine doing this for 18 years. For those of you that have served on any public committees, it's not just the 2 meetings a month that we're required to attend. Over the last 18 years, Mr. McCara has served on 4 or 5 superintendent search committees, which most will argue is probably the most important thing that we as a committee do. He has served on 2 school building committees. And again, for those of you who have never served on one, as an example, the Park Avenue School Building Committee is still in existence, and it's been about 8 to 10 years. So he served on both the middle school and the Park Ave. He has served on numerous union negotiation teams over the years as a school committee representative. He's attended dozens of budget meetings, workshops, town meetings, special meetings, and other formal occasions as a member and/or representative of the school committee. My calculation is he has signed approximately 2,300 diplomas of Bartlett graduates since he's been on the school committee. On the flip side, I estimate that 2,700 students have had their first day of school as kindergartners while you've been on this committee. Mike and his wife were part of the parent group that first started the Webster Music Boosters many, many years ago. Before I even joined the committee, I often would hear both faculty and parents comment how you attend almost every event that went on in the school district. And it really meant a lot to the students, it meant a lot to the parents and the faculty. I even recall sitting in the gymnasium at the middle school for a 6th grade graduation ceremony many, many years ago. Sitting in the back, not really paying attention before I really knew you well. And Mr. Phelps was introducing all of the dignitaries who were in attendance. And I remember thinking, wow, the school committee chair is in attendance during the day of a 6th grade graduation ceremony. And I said to myself, that's quite a dedicated individual. Maybe insane, but dedicated. Beyond the thousands of hours he has volunteered for the students of our district and the citizens of this town. You are one of the most kind and honorable people I've ever had the privilege of knowing. You're actually the main reason that I'm sitting on this committee this evening. You did, after many years of asking me. I've had the privilege of knowing Mr. McCara for probably 10 to 12 years now, and have served with him on numerous committees, and then again, I have served with him on the school committee. Oftentimes, local, state, and federal committees will get very political. Times that takes away from the effectiveness of the organization that they are asked to oversee. I believe that over the last 18 years, the school committee has probably been the most highly functioning group as far as an elected committee in town. And I truly believe that is because of your leadership, and that is because of your demand that we all, as members, understand the legal role of the committee, and that is through your dedication and hard work. So if you bear with me 1 minute. Doubt, or might have given it away. On behalf of the entire school committee, the school district, and the town of Webster, I would like to present you with this plaque, and it reads, Michael McCara, thank you for 18 years of dedicated service to the Webster Public Schools. Small or big? Absolutely. Yes. No, that's the one, that's the plaque. Oh, you said small. We organized this about 10 minutes before you got here.
Gotta keep those surprises.
You need your glasses to read it.
Very nice.
Wait a minute, this is a Twitter account.
Good. It is awesome. Thank you.
So I know that obviously the years and years and hours of service that you provided to this town did not go without sacrifice from your family. And when I stopped by your wife's shop to let her know we were going to honor you this evening and we were going to give you a plaque, I jokingly but not so jokingly said we should be getting Mrs. McCara a plaque, because she and your children obviously gave up a lot of their time with you, and we were the beneficiary of that. So on behalf of the Webster Public Schools and the school district, Mrs. Gogan, we would like to just thank Mrs. McCara for her sacrifice and everything that she did.
She came tonight to be sure I don't change.
Which is what she said to me at the shop. At this time, I would open it up to obviously any of the committee members or any of the folks that are with us this evening that, or to obviously Mr. McCara that wanted to make any comment.
Chair,
Mr. Shenebert.
I'd just like to echo your comments. Mr. McCara, I guess I gotta be official. So Mr. McCara, I don't know, kind of at a lost of words, which doesn't happen very often. But like Chairman Hurton said, you're without a doubt one of the most caring and kind individuals inside the school system and out. And I personally would like to thank you for your years of service as well as your mentorship with me.
Mrs.
Chair,
Gogan, yes.
Mr. McCara, I just want to thank you for the warm welcome to Webster. You are one of the main reasons that attracted me to this community. I think that you embody the positive nature in this community, the caring, and I will never forget our first luncheon at Point Breeze and your open and honest approach to working together between the school committee and the superintendent. And Webster's been very fortunate to have you. I tried my best to convince him to stay, but I was not successful. I truly will miss you. I hope that you stay in touch and come and visit us with your friend, Mr. Avlis. You both will be very missed, and I'm sure that we have smaller things for you to partake in if you so choose. Thank you.
You. Appreciate it.
By all means, if there's anybody in the audience that would like to offer some comments.
Nice tan.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Just a few words from my friend. I don't want to. I can go from here. We started back on the school committee, some 18 years ago. And it was a different kind of a committee back then. We were still in the infancy of ed reform, which really had a major impact on how school committees operate back in the 90s. And it was revealing to me when I came on board, and then 2 years later when Mr. McCara came on board. The responsibility, obviously, is quite overwhelming, but the responsibilities also are limited as compared to what school committees were in the past. Before, they did all of the hiring, they were involved with the day-to-day operations, they were involved in the schools. It was a much different atmosphere and role for school committees. It was a pleasure for me to welcome Mr. McCara on because he kind of shared the same ideas and plans that I had. And why shouldn't we? I mean, we graduated together, we grew up in this community together, and I think we both came on the committees, not that we had any real experience in education, but in our own ways had something we thought to offer. And certainly, Mr. McCara has had plenty to offer. But, his role in the school committee for the last 18 years epitomizes what school committees are all about. He did not get involved with day-to-day operations. He stuck to his policies. He stuck to budget. He, although wasn't involved with the intricacies of the job that entails the administration, he still held him accountable. And believe me, he, when he wanted to make a point, he made his point, and you knew where he was coming from. So I think all of us could, as school committee members, could use Mr. McCara as a role model for, their participation on the school committee. And I wanted to thank him for the years of service when I sat over there and for the years of service when I sat over here. You not only were a strong committee person who, again, held us accountable and yet supported us in every way you possibly could, but you were a good friend as well. And in a small community, that goes a long way. So congratulations. I still beat you by 2 months. But I got a feeling we may see each other somewhere down the road
Building committee.
in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you. Thank
If
you.
I may,
Thanks, Ted.
Yes, Mr. Brandon.
I'd just like to say, I've been here for 18 years. And in a few of my hats during these 18 years, part of it was spent behind the camera. And I remember somebody coming up to me and saying, one of my first bosses saying, we need somebody to do school committee. Can you film? Can you, it's a good learning experience. Not only will you be helping us out, but you can learn. And I said, well, what should I do? What should I pay attention? He goes, you want to listen and learn and observe. And he says, you can learn a lot by going to committee meetings, learn what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, how a school committee member acts, what different roles there are in the school district to learn. And I really feel that you have taught me a lot over the years. In all my different hats, you are somebody that I've always looked up to, somebody that I've always respected. And when you spoke, I listened, because I've always admired what you've done for us here. Your strong leadership in a quiet way, but when you spoke, we always knew you meant business, and we understood, and you were always coming from a good place, what is best for the Webster Public Schools, what is best for the students in Webster. So I appreciate so much what you've done for me over the years, and we're going to miss you a ton. And I thank you for your strong leadership and for all you have taught me. So thank you.
Thank you. You know,
I'm going to aim for last time. Mic closer, because I know
Oh.
people out there want to hear you.
no, really. So, you know, I always believe just do the right thing for the right reasons, and everything will take care of itself. And, you know, I pride myself on being here as intentionally being non-political. People would come up to me all the time and say, you know, you guys are doing a good job, or, you know, you're not controversial, you're not in the paper and all this stuff. And I said, no, we strive to be boring. That's what we do. And we're all about business of helping the kids as best we can, and supporting our superintendent. And that's our role. And I think a successful school committee is a combination of business people, like for many years, Ted and myself, balanced with some academic people also on the committee. So it's that balance, I think, that makes it work. Because with the ed reform, you know, we are more like the board of directors, and the superintendent is the CEO. And so you think of it as a business that way, and who has what responsibilities. And people would come up to me too, and the other thing saying, well, did you hear this or this or this that went on? I went, no. Well, you must have heard about this or this or this. And I went, no. Well, why not? I said, I don't want to know. It's not my job to know. We hire people to do that. And whoever the superintendent was. And I said, I have no business getting involved in personnel issues or, you know, something of the day. If it's important, you know, Vin Simone, Greg Ciatti, Barbara Malkus, Rich Lynn, Ruth Ann Gogan. I mean, they would bring it to our attention if it was worthy to breathe there. And we had our share of some interesting issues over the years, and we dealt with them in the way you're supposed to, in a legal, ethical, professional way. So, you know, I've enjoyed this time. I felt bad this year because I missed so many meetings. But, you know, I feel good because this committee now is comprised of people who are, all of them, on here for the right reasons. No agendas, just here to do the right thing for the kids. And I'm really comfortable and happy with the makeup of the committee, and I'm sure the new person, you know, will add the same thing. We'll be watching and just to operate that way, and everything will be just fine. And, you know, I have every confidence in Mrs. Gogan. She's impressed me a lot from day one when she took some strong leadership positions, which at the time weren't the most popular, but they were proven to be the right decisions. And so I think between Mrs. Gogan and her leadership team, I only see good things happening in our district. So again, thank you for the kind words.
Anyone else would like to make any comments? With that being said, I will continue with the agenda, and unless the committee has an objection, I did want to jump to one item under new business. That is item F, School Committee Conference Room. And I will entertain a motion to give or actually not give, but present to Mrs. Gogan this plaque that reads, in recognition and appreciation for 18 years of dedicated service to the Webster Public Schools, this school committee room shall be named the Michael McCara Conference Room.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes, thank you once again, Mr. McCara.
Thank you. And it was only 2 nights a month, Ted, right? It is.
And that's what we told Mrs. Siddiqui. and
Big
that's-
lie.
There's always a write-in campaign, though.
Yeah.
Just putting it out.
Again, thank you very much.
Listen,
Chairman,
I also want to say, just thank you to my family for coming out, and just, it means a lot, so.
This is why I brought these.
Oh, yeah.
Mrs. Gogan.
I just wanted to ask Mr. McCara to open up the plaque that would be,
Oh.
that we would be hanging on the walls before you enter this room. I think it's important for him to see it. Yes.
This is probably one of the nicest rooms in the district. Really?
Which is why we named
Which
you
is why-
after you, one of the nicest people in the district.
I haven't seen you, Ted, but I gotta tell you, this whole complex, I mean, it's nicer than I could have imagined.
Looking forward to finding everything.
Yeah. Yep, you.
No problem.
This room does see a lot of use. Could we ask that your family come and join you for a
Oh.
picture? Thank you.
Go with it.
Maybe here? No?
Where?
You don't want us in the picture.
Congratulations.
Thank you again for coming, Mike's beautiful family. Oh, sorry. So we have 5 minutes before we need to stop for the public hearing. So you want to begin your superintendent's report?
I certainly can.
All right, good evening.
And I
Mrs.
can do it in 5 minutes. I would just like to thank Mr. Russell. We had a very well-attended middle school science fair. I don't know if many of you were there, but it was a full house, and I wanted to thank him publicly for organizing that. I think it was a huge success. There were many inventive, creative ideas, research on how hunger affects strength, what type of coffee or cup to put your coffee in. Kids were creating their own soap savers. All the judges were volunteers, parents, and I was impressed with the amount of people that were there, and I was impressed with the kids' creativity and innovation. I'd also like to let everyone know that we will be doing our open house here on May 5th. We'll be doing, we've sent out invitations to local legislators and town officials. Mr. Avalos will be there, Mr. McCara, we want to make sure that you're there. Our open house will be from 9 to 12 here. I also would like to inform you that Selectman Jolda has asked the Bartlett High School Impressions and Pit Band to open up the town meeting. They'll be singing the national anthem. And Selectman Fatman has invited the Impressions and Pit Band to the State House, and we will be visiting the State House with Mr. Fatman on May 3rd. And my last piece that I'd like to let you know is that our meeting with Representative McKenna and Senator Fatman was successful. Mr. McKenna filed an amendment for $100,000 for the Webster Public Schools for money dedicated to the Bartlett High School entrance for radios and cameras. That's an amendment he's pushing through. I'm not sure if we'll get that. There are hundreds of amendments going through. I hope we do. And yep, for cameras, safety, and $100,000. So we were pleased to see that happen very quickly since our last meeting. And finally, I will let you know that we are in the process of working with Dr. Rojas from consultant to look at how we're going to build our family resource program here. So she is from the Worcester Public Schools and has been looking at our ELL program and has some experience with outreach and parents. And so we've had several meetings, and I will keep you apprised of that. I'm trying to talk fast because how am I doing?
You have 2 more minutes.
Okay. And other updates, I would like to let you know that Park Ave, again, will be receiving this year's Healthy Start Award on May 10th. We'll be going to the State House for our high participation with the breakfast program. I'd also like to let you know that Ellen Nyland has been working with the UMass Extension Nutrition Program, and a program called SNAP-Ed has been brought into all the schools to teach kids about healthy eating. And Ellen Nyland has also been working with 2 Framingham State dietitians, and Lays is going to tell you more about that. But they are going to all of the schools to talk to the kids and work with the kids about healthy eating habits. And that is it.
All right, any questions or comments for Mrs. Gogan? Since we do have a couple minutes, I did attend for a few minutes the middle school science fair. They had some phenomenal guest judges that I ran into, but I was extremely impressed with not only the science involved, but the creativity and the students' ability to present. And it was interesting because when you first read the question, automatically I would think, well, I wonder which is the actual answer. And then oftentimes what you thought was going to be the result of that particular student's experiment was not the reality. So it was very informative.
And I'll comment as well because I was a judge. It was awesome. I was so impressed. They gave us a list of questions, and I asked every single question on the list because that's what I thought I was supposed to do. And the students could answer and articulate very well every single question. I was very impressed. I'm very glad it was brought back to the middle school, and my hope is that it will continue to be an option and continue to grow because it was impressive.
It was. I was a judge as well for the first shift. What I was most impressed was that he got each grade through there, and there were different time slots for kids to put their projects up, take them down, answer questions, and it was, there was a lot of moving pieces, but it was well organized.
I agree.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments for Mrs. Gogan? Hearing none, thank you very much. With it being 7 o'clock, this is the time that our public hearing is scheduled to begin. Per town charter, we are required to hold a public hearing to discuss our FY19 budget, and I will entertain a motion to open up the FY19 budget public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. So let me just start off quickly for those that may be watching and are unaware of our budget process, and I apologize if I'm going to mention some of the things you were going to discuss. The district leadership team begins meeting in October typically, and the superintendent this year instructed her building principals and other members of the district leadership team to not only just look at what are the needs moving forward as far as what are additional positions and programs that they want to add, but I think, as I've mentioned in the past, for the first time that I've experienced since being on the committee, truly looking at some of our programs. And are they working? And if they're not working, why? And if there are personnel allocation shifts that make sense based on additional need and or a certain program isn't working. I think your team did an excellent job doing that. They had several difficult discussions during those months because it's never easy trying to come up with really identifying with a limited amount of resources, where are we going to apply those resources. The first draft of the budget was presented to the committee in late January. The committee has provided feedback throughout the process. We did have what I believed was an excellent budget workshop between the school committee members and the district leadership team in February. The original draft was voted upon and submitted to the town administrator per town charter by the end of February. Since then, I know that Mrs. Gogan and Mrs. Perangeli have presented the budget to both the Finance Committee as well as the Board of Selectmen, I believe.
No, we didn't do a presentation.
Okay.
We did the tri-board. We asked, we requested to go, and they said,
Okay.
Did the finance.
yes.
You did present to the Finance
Finance
Committee, and then the three committees, three boards,
Yes.
the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, and School Committee did meet to discuss the FY19 budget. Ironically and somewhat scary, most of that discussion actually pertained to the FY20 budget, which I'm sure there will be a lot more discussion moving forward, which I'm sure Mr. McCarroll will be very sad that he may not be attending all of those future meetings. But with that being said, I just wanted to express my opinion to the general public, how impressed I've been with you and your team with regards to working on this budget. I may not agree with 100% of the budget, but I do thank you for your efforts. And again, there's been a tremendous amount of thought and time built into what the public will see this evening. So with that being said, I turn it over to Mrs. Gogan.
Thank you. As Chairman Hurton has explained, the budget was collaboratively created with my leadership team. The proposed budget was built with the following goals, which I am going to just outline. It's been very focused on improving student programming and student achievement rates. And it's been built on with the goal of to continue to provide updates and resources to our teachers and staff. Investing in our own human capital here in our existing school is very important to make sure that our teachers are well supported, our administrators are working with our teachers in order to make the changes that we need to make to be a more successful place for all students. We will continue to put safety as a priority in our district and keeping student learning and student programming the focus of all budgetary decisions. And we've had multiple conversations about how and why we have to make certain decisions to prioritize the high needs risk groups in our community. We have about 50% of our students are economically disadvantaged. We have a high special education population, about 21%, and about 9% for our ELL. And all of our program has to meet all of our student needs, but particular subgroups are not doing well. So we really are digging deeper to look at why they're not doing well. I think probably for the first time, or from what I was told by my administrative team, we really took a systems approach to looking at budgeting. We did not pit one school against another school. We worked as one district leadership team and started to look at what our needs were at each of the schools and had really good conversations about how to build cohesive programs that meet the needs of our kids. And with that, we were really able to find some savings. We were able to reallocate positions. We were able to look at eliminating some positions to create other positions. And so those are our 5 areas of goals that we took to set off this budget. We've had a number of wonderful things happen in a very short time in this district. And if Vern is focusing on the PowerPoint, the presentation in front of you lists some of the highlights. We were very fortunate to pilot a free reading program this year, pre-K to 5. We've provided ongoing and will continue to provide professional development for our teachers in that area. We have hired 2 new principals at the elementary and the middle school. We've increased time on learning at both the elementary and the middle school, and that's important, time on learning. There was an additional 32 hours of focused time gained by looking at schedule changes. We also increased the length of the day at the elementary school by 10 minutes. And one of the things about systems change is you can't come in as the superintendent and just direct change. It doesn't work. You have to engage and work with the people within the school district. And so we're really looking at building stronger leadership teams with our teachers and staff. And new this year, we put grade level coordinators in at the middle school. We have department heads over at the high school. And new this year, we've put an ILT team, which you'll hear from in a little while, from the elementary school. We've restructured some of our special education programs. We were very fortunate to get a $200,000 grant to help the underperforming school, Park Ave. You're going to hear a little bit about that grant tonight and where we're at, what stages we're at with that grant. The middle school has also undergone a turnaround site visit, and we're in the process of creating an action plan to access $47,000 of state assistance. The high school is in the process of creating an action plan to access $18,000 worth of Title I funds to primarily focus on high needs students. We received the 21st Century After School Grant for $150,000 at Park Ave. That grant, I think you had many years ago, and we hadn't had it for many years. Okay. That services a lot of children. We've implemented new after-school enrichment activities at the middle school and the high school. Things like Math Mania, Walking Classroom, Wacky Reading Wednesday, Focus University. And we are continuing to build our PBIS programs at the schools. You will hear next school committee meeting, you will have an update from the high school PBIS team. The middle school is in their first tier of training of PBIS, and you'll hear tonight a little bit about PBIS at the elementary school. And for those who are watching, PBIS is building positive behavior intervention supports for students in your school. Students need to feel safe, welcome, and have trusted adults in their schools in order to access their education. And so we're not just looking at curriculum, we're looking at our climate, our culture, while we're looking at curriculum and bringing up the rigor. Lastly, some of our other district highlights that are important to note are, and this is one of the things that surprised me the most, and I think I've said this multiple times at this meeting. There are so many wonderful things that happen in Webster for our students. And the kids are really lucky. A lot of schools don't have this. We, as you have seen, the Impressions and Pit Band won the grand champions. The middle school show choir, Attitude, has won awards. The cheerleaders won national awards and state championship. The mock trial competed at regional championship. We have 2 students right now in Atlanta at the DECA national competition. The DECA team competed at the state championship. Our Empty Bowls community event was wonderful, a wonderful representation of our kids leading the community to help support those in need. It wasn't the adults, it was the children who were running that event. Our athletic programs continue to surprise us with trophies and winning. Our new athletic program at the middle school has certainly brought about a new sense of unity within the middle school and school pride. Our basketball teams have gone undefeated, and the list keeps going on and on. I thought that was the last page, but there's so many cool things that happen here. As I mentioned, the elementary school is winning the Healthy Start Award and going to the State House. We are partnering with Framingham State students, and we have intern dietitians coming to train our kids on how to eat well, which is very effective. We have UMass Extension doing the SNAP program. We've been partnering with the Worcester Community Action Council, and we have dental programs coming into our schools to help our children making sure that they have healthy teeth. And those resources are available for families. We've been partnering with Nichols Colleges. We are partnering and very much looking forward to Head Start coming back into Webster. And we've been sharing the resources from the reading program and professional development opportunities with them. I'm excited about partnering with the Webster Senior Center. We have 3 seniors working in our schools at this point, and we're always looking for more seniors to come for their property tax write-off. And then, I'm very pleased at the high-quality level of professional development that we've been offering, continuing to offer. We provide surveys to our teachers so that we can gauge what they need. We have the DSAC team coming in. We have a consultant from Looney Math working with us for the next year. We are now working with Berta Elena Rojas, who is an ELL consultant. So there's a number of very good things happening here in this district. And the reason I bring that up when I talk about a budget, it's because you have to have a plan. Budget's an outline of where you want to go. And this budget that the school committee has approved and the town accountant has approved is focused on improving curriculum and instruction, assessment, academics, and maintaining all of the good things that we have with a clear focus that cohesive curriculum program has to exist so it makes sense for kids. And we have to have the proper interventions, and we have to use data to measure how well we're doing. And so does that mean that we're ready to do all of that? No, that means that we have to provide support. We have to start to open up conversations with our teachers and our teams to see where everyone's at and what stage they're at, and provide them the support to move forward on this map. So those are our goals that I talked about. Our proposed staffing changes are as follows. At Park Avenue Elementary School, we're looking for another special education teacher. That again would be a budget neutral because we've done some reallocation, and that would give us a special education teacher at every grade level. We are looking to have another PE teacher, and we are reallocating that position from the high school, and we are looking to have a librarian. The middle school, we are looking to put some foreign language back into the student programming, 0.5. We're looking to have a grade 6 teacher. We're looking to have a special education teacher at grades 5 and 6, and a special education teacher at grades 7 and 8. One of those is budget neutral, and we're looking to have an additional paraprofessional for our STAR program. And additional staffing changes at the middle school include adding 1 more grade level coordinator, and adding spring track and field to their sports, and a special education team chair. District-wide, we're looking to add a school psychologist and a 0.5 part-time administrative assistant. The proposed budget is $20,929,695. That's a 4.2 increase over the fiscal year of 18. That gives you a historical view.
So here you see a breakdown by building. You have Park Ave seeing a 6.7% increase, Webster Middle School a 5.9% increase, Bartlett High School a 0.9% increase, special education a 3.7%, district admin a 2.7% for a total overall budget of 4.2%. Salaries make up 3.7% of the increase. So you can see there's been a lot of reallocation. You noticed as she was going, as Superintendent Gogan was going through the positions, that you saw a lot of budget neutral. So there was a real focus on looking at programs and looking at ways within that we could save or reallocate funds. This is not a very good slide. It's hard to see. These are just some highlights, some non-salary major impact items, some items that we have reduced and some items that we have increased. We reduced subs across the board at the 3 different schools while increasing building maintenance at Park Ave by $36,000. We increased our athletic program at the Webster Middle School by $34,000. A big chunk of that is additional equipment for our football program over there at the middle school. We've increased building and maintenance, $13,000. Probably could have been increased a little more. We're seeing some things really start to break and fall apart here at the high school. So that's an area we're going to really need to identify and focus in the upcoming budget years. Our out-of-district tuitions, we saw a jump in that of $175,000, so you'll notice that. And then we are also increased professional training and reallocated some of the school funds and put them into one curriculum renewal so we can take a system approach across the district and really focus on areas that we need to improve instead of little tiny pockets here and there. You can see our FY19 Chapter 70 went up $295,000 for a 2.4% increase. There has been, the House budget has been released, which seen an additional $133,000 to that number, but we don't know where that's going to land. There's still a lot of time left of the budget season, and as we know, things are not always as they seem. It could change tomorrow. So this is the number we're working with right now as we go through. As you can see, our target share, the school district is doing really good. Chapter 70% of our foundation is 54.29%, which is really good for FY19. This is just going over our circuit breaker. I think it's important to point this out because this has been, I would like to say, we'll call it a reserve for our special education. Typically, school districts like to carry over 1 year of reserve. You have to spend that money within the next year. As you can see, by going down the expense, we have been spending, in FY17, we spent more than what we brought in, and we've been really tapping into that. If this trend continues, our reserve is not going to be a reserve anymore. It's going to be empty. And then what do? Then we're going back to the town and asking for more money. So this is an area that we really need to keep an eye on. School choice is also an area that we use for instructional. We've been typically taking some of this money, $100,000 each year, to help supplement our budget. This was an area that we had mentioned, Mr. Avlis, early on, and I agree with that. This is an area that we hope to target on our technology because we're going to have to start focusing on that. We went out and made a large purchase a few years back of Chromebooks, and those only have a 4-year life cycle. So this is an area where we hope that will support our technology infrastructure in the school system. So you can see the focus areas that we looked at across the board: curriculum and all content areas with a strong focus on ELA, math, and science, working on inclusive practices and equitable opportunities for all students. The buildings are working on gaining and connecting more with families and developing a family resource center through grants. We're really trying to explore our grants. If you saw earlier on in the presentation, all the additional monies that came into our district, we're really looking to capitalize on all of that. We're focusing on school safety and school climate. Our sports programs, all of our extracurricular, all of the things that are going on every day helps build the climate, and our focus on school safety. Superintendent Gogan talked about reaching out to Representative McKenna and, hoping that'll help increase the safety here at the high school is key for us. And then we're continuing to examine procedures and develop consistent practices across the district. Constantly looking at programs. Are they effective? How are we measuring them? Are they working? Do we need to reevaluate or need to reallocate and look at something different? So I think we need to continue. I'm really happy and positive about where we've gone in this short time this year. It seems short, but it seems long at the same time. It's been nonstop, but there are a lot of good things happening, and we look forward to starting shortly working on following year. Once we get through May.
Right. All set?
All set?
Any questions or comments from the committee for Mrs. Gogan or Mrs. Perangeli? Since this is a public hearing, is there anyone in the audience that has any questions or comments related to our budget? Hearing none, again, I reiterate my thanks for the effort that went into this. Personally, I am still slightly disappointed that we were unable to address some of the concerns that were raised with regards to what I believe to be fair and equitable funding. As chair, I'm unable to make a motion, so even if I wanted to potentially amend the budget, I'm unable to do so. But I was disappointed that we were, and I understand the explanations that were given. I was hoping that out of close to a $21 million budget, we could potentially find something towards the $50,000 that had been requested through, from all of the extracurricular advisors. So that would be my only comment with regards to this budget. As I said probably at the beginning of my comments, I support probably 98.7% of the budget, but any other comments or questions from the committee? Yes? Oh,
If I may.
yes.
We do pay. As we build 20, your points have been heard by this budget was built
Any other questions or comments from either the committee or anyone in attendance? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. So continuing with our agenda, unless Mrs. Gogan objects, since we are going later than usual, I was just going to skip the remainder of your presentation and jump to student update, Laiz Napoli, because most evenings, I'm guessing you unfortunately have a little bit of homework that you need to address. So with that being said, good evening, Laiz.
Good evening. I have a brief report today. The last SAT prep class being offered to any students that were planning on taking. The SAT was held on Wednesday, April 11th. This week, AP exam dues are being collected, and the Framingham State students who mastered in dietetics gave presentations on proper eating, and the chef for the Webster Schools District, Chef Helen, she demonstrated with a knife cutting, not knife cutting, a knife skill demo halfway through the presentation, showing kids how to cut their vegetables conveniently and safely. Student council members took part in the Webster Earth Day cleanup. This was 1 or 2 weeks ago, I believe. Prom tickets went on sale Monday, April 23rd, and any students who plan on attending must have their dues paid regardless of whether they're seniors or juniors or sophomores, whatever the case. Tickets for Arsenic and Old Lace, the play that Drama is putting on, went on sale. They are going to be $7 pre-sale and $10 at the door for anybody who's interested in going. The Farm to School program is going to be featuring locally grown baked potatoes with a side of chili and toppings including broccoli, bacon, cheese, butter, and sour cream on Thursday, the 26th. Be there or be square. There was an assembly held for the seniors yesterday, last period, and they summed up the agenda, I guess, for these next couple months. They mapped it out. We were informed of all of the important dates, graduation, things to keep in mind, like tardies. We're only allowed 3 this quarter because we leave on the 25th. We leave on the 25th. And for athletics, JV and varsity softball opened up their seasons, winning their games against Oxford Wednesday, April 11th. Girls tennis also won 2 matches over break, and there's going to be a Swickle competition on Friday. And I'd like to extend my congratulations to Allison Grumsky. She was the first female to be crowned state free throw champion at TD Garden. She got 5 out of 5. It's impressive. Dylan Thomas and Connor Brennan made it to finals in their DECA competition in Atlanta. Yes. And Connor received a silver medal for his high score on the business law and ethics exam. So congratulations to him. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments for Laiz? Not that you have it memorized, but you mentioned prior to the meeting, how many days left of school? 24. And it's nice to see that there's finally a good basketball player in the Grimsky family.
Finally,
So
right?
therefore, congratulations to Allison. Again, thank you very much for your report. Continuing back with the superintendent's report, next item would be the principal report. Good evening, Mrs. Coleman from Park Ave.
Hi, how are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Great. It was a really positive way to start the meeting, and we've only known each other for a little bit, but I appreciate your positivity. You always come with a smile, and I just love it. And so, thank you for that. So I just wanted to give a quick little MCAS update. So we finished off with the ELA testing for grades 3 and 4. It went smoothly. I was very happy to hear that. Our tech team was on board. They cached all the materials. We didn't run into any internet issues. And we only had 4 makeups in total. So I thought that was wonderful. 2 students in grade 3, 2 in grade 4. So all makeups were completed and done. So that was wonderful. So I was very pleased and happy that they supported us throughout the process. So thanks to the tech team. I put PBIS on our agenda because we've done quite a bit of talking about PBIS at the school. And I know originally, being new and it being PBIS school and PBIS being so intertwined with PAWS that I think at the beginning there was some confusion that PAWS was PBIS. And so we had altered, we had gone to Student of the Month, we had done some changes, we had looked a lot at some of our data that I had presented earlier, some of the Swiss data, some of the different initiatives. And so Mrs. Mackay was on the original inception team, and we've just recently heard back because we're one of the original cohorts. So now that the high school and the middle school are coming on, I brought Mrs. Mackay to speak a little bit about the historical perspective of PBIS and why it's evolved to what it is now, because it's still happening. We're a PBIS school. We've just brought it out of the non-classroom structures and into the classrooms. And I think that's why we're finding such an increase and a decrease in behavior and an increase in student engagement. And although I do think some of that has to do with the instruction and some of the new programs that we've brought in, as well as the teachers' excitement that they're bringing to the classrooms. So if I could have Mrs. Mackay just speak a little bit to that.
Mrs. Daniel, thank you.
Thank you. Her arms aren't broken, just her foot. I've become her work wife.
Thank you. So as you may remember, PBIS was selected, Park Ave was selected to participate in DESI's PBIS Academy training in 2014. So a very long time ago, maybe 17 years ago when I started in Webster, the first round of PBIS came around and Park Ave participated. And then it kind of went away for a while. And then DESI caught on and said, hey, this is something that we need to do and train people across the state. So they had trainers, and Park Ave was chosen as one of the under 10 Western cohorts. We're in Central Mass, but we were the Western cohort. And so we met for a couple of years, starting in 2014, with some other schools from Central Mass and Western Mass. And a lot of work was done. A group of teachers and support staff were selected, and we attended trainings with these other schools, learning about what PBIS was and what systems we had to put in place. So PBIS has something called the Fidelity Inventory. And every time we met with them, we had to go through our fidelity checklist. And it was things like, do you have leadership support? Do you have a system in place for student recognition? Do you have a system in place for student consequences? Do you have a leadership team? Do you collect data? Do you make decisions regarding that data? And so we traveled along. This happened at the same time that we reconfigured. So it was so easy, right? This happened around the same time that we reconfigured. So our focus when we did PBIS back at the schools was to bring 3rd and 4th grade down into Park Ave and create a culture of one Park Ave school, and not the teachers that were coming from 3rd and 4th grade at the middle school and the teachers that were already there. So our focus naturally had to be culture. And we chose and started with non-classroom settings as the place to work with PBIS. I don't think anyone anticipated the sheer size of what Park Ave would become. And when this work began, we were a school of 420, 430. And when we ended, we're almost 900. And so, or where we are now, not where we ended. And so when we joined forces, we really had to make some decisions as to how do we implement this? This is so daunting. It really turned out like the non-classroom teacher folks had to take responsibility for planning. And so it really came down to 5 or 6 people doing 80, 90% of the work of PBIS. And so we planned student incentives, we planned assemblies, we planned staff incentives. We wanted to build that culture and that community sense when we joined both schools. Along the way, we had a leadership team. We collected data. We could hit that box in our fidelity inventory, but we didn't really do a whole lot with our data. We didn't have the structures and time, nor had we anticipated how much it would be to implement to its full extent with the size that Park Ave became. In the second year of implementation, we lost our leadership team so that we could have distributive leadership. So committees were formed, and so all of these pieces of PBIS were charged to committees. And we got together on the half days, and committees would report out, but there was no leadership team anymore to plan. And so it became really difficult to put all of these pieces together. The incentive committee, I'll give the example of the incentive committee. So we started giving out, it started off as classroom tickets. We started giving out PAWs. We started giving out PAWs for everything. Then some teachers gave out PAWs in their classrooms. Some teachers didn't. Some people gave PAWs in the hallways. And so students started collecting PAWs tickets, for positive behavior. And the system was, what PBIS required us to do was, if you could hold that for a second, for every ticket that I gave you, I'd have to say, you're getting this ticket because you did something that was safe, respectful, or responsible, so that there was a direct connection to that recognition. What started happening was that kids started stealing PAWs. Teachers started giving packs of 10 at a time. They started losing their meaning. We had pajama day was one of the incentives if you earned so many PAWs. And on any given day, you couldn't tell if it was pajama day for what reason, because they earned pajama day on the buses, and they earned pajama day in their classroom, and they earned pajama day in the hallways, and they earned pajama day in the cafeteria. We did something wonderful, which was bring parents in to have lunch with their students. That was a great incentive. But when our size got to be the size that we are, it became unmanageable for the office to greet and control who are these people coming into our building. And that became a safety issue for us, which we're always concerned about. And if we truly had data meetings as a leadership team and paid attention to the data that we were collecting, we collected a lot. We didn't do anything with it. If we had, we would have seen that our focus needed to be in classrooms, because across the board, 4 years ago, this year, more of the behavioral incidents happen in the classrooms rather than in the non-classroom settings. And here we were, hallways, cafeteria, playground, buses. What about the classrooms? So this year when we started, we were like, you know what, we're all about instruction this year. We really, really have to shore up instruction. When we were writing the grant, we assumed that if you increase student engagement, that your behaviors will decrease. That was our premise. And so what did we have to do? Increase student engagement. Keep kids in your classroom. They need to be in the classroom, and they need to be taught. They need to spend as much time with you as possible in the classroom. And so we gave teachers the option of using PAWs in their classrooms, and we devised other ways of recognizing students in the non-classroom settings. 2 teachers chose to keep PAWs in their classrooms. We surveyed the teachers. Does everybody have a classroom management system? All but 1 teacher had a classroom management system. So that's really telling. Where we had to put our focus this year was on instruction. Second, what do we do with the non-classroom settings? Who's getting the PAWs? What we noticed in the past was that If there were students that were tier 2 students or tier 3 students and needed a little bit of support with their behavior, naturally the tendency was to offer them pause. Recognize everything. And many, many students who always did what was expected never got a paw. And so we really had to evaluate that. We had to think about what message are we sending? So we created the Student of the Month program this year. And the Student of the Month is, we choose a student, a teacher chooses a student from their classroom each month. And they are celebrated for consistently making good choices, for being kind, for being helpful. It's not just about doing their homework and always doing, being a classroom helper, but all of those things. Doing the right thing without being asked to do. That has been such a success. We started in December. We celebrate after the award ceremony of the certificate. We take their pictures, they get posted in the lobby, we have a breakfast, and we invite parents in. And I will take a guess and say that we've had more parents in with our breakfast celebration once a month than we ever did with the pause. Monthly, we see about 120, 150 parents come into the school to celebrate the success of their students. We've also increased student leadership opportunities for fourth graders. Fourth graders are helping do the announcements in the morning. Their voices are heard. They do such a great job. Fourth graders this year have gone into the kindergarten classrooms and have been classroom helpers. Mrs. Coleman specifically placed their lunches side by side. Fourth graders who are helpers willingly volunteered, gave up their recess time to sit with kindergartners. And how important that is at the beginning of the year, because the adults in the cafeteria would spend half of our time opening up ketchup packets and milks because they still don't have those skills. So fourth grade helpers did that, and they are so excited, and they're models, and other kids in their classroom want to be fourth grade helpers, want to be chosen. And if they misbehave, they get demoted, so it's a real thing. And they help in the classrooms. We have fourth graders reading to second grade classrooms as helpers as well. So really developing the leadership of students and really recognizing what that's about. So this myth, I think, that's out there that we no longer do PBIS is a myth. We still do PBIS. Our focus has changed tremendously, but it was thoughtful and coincides with our necessity to engage students. And together with engaging with their positive behaviors and their academics, we're seeing more success with our students. So we'll be meeting with our consultant, PBIS consultant, on May 22nd, as the state just approved this funding for them to come back and follow up with their original cohorts. And so we'll be able to talk about the progress that we've made, the changes that we've made, and in every school that we met with when we were in that cohort, they made changes along the way that made sense for where their school was going. And so those are the changes. That's the evolution of Park Ave, PBIS.
Thank you, Mrs. Mackay. I think that was really important because she's been there through the whole process. So to come in, I have a different lens, a different viewpoint to see it through. And so I look to her because her historical perspective is very important as we gauge where we're going and why we're going, and using the data that was available to continue to evolve what we have there at the school. So thank you. You did a nice job. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was our instructional leadership team. I also call them my grade level coordinators. It's been wonderful. And so we've talked a lot about in the grant. So this is all intertwined with the grant as well, because part of having a big school is that you want to have that distributive leadership, but you also want to have that two-way communication. And in a large school, sometimes that's very difficult because you're always trying to make the staff in the building smaller so you can have those nice, intimate conversations, because that's where relationships start. You know, we build that foundation of trust there. And so having this team in place has been very, very beneficial. So I asked them, I said, team, how would you like to present? I said, there's no pressure. I'm comfortable with whatever decision you make, because because you want good, strong people working for you. You don't want a bunch of yes men. You want people that are good in their profession and their trade because they make you better. And we have rich discussions. We don't always agree. Sometimes we agree to disagree, but the conversations and the work we do is really, really driving us forward. And I'm grateful for that and their honesty every day. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my grade level team, Mr. Green.
Hello. Everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you for that confidence boost right before we
You
got
are
up.
welcome.
For those of you that don't know me, my name is Brendan Green. I'm a fourth grade teacher at Park Ave. I'm on the instructional leadership team with some of my colleagues that are here. And the reason for me being here today is I just want to give you a brief overview of, you know, who's on the instructional leadership team, you know, why do we exist, why were we assembled, and what are some of the things that we've done this year. So I'll try to be brief and then leave a couple minutes at the end if you want to, so we can field some questions. Thank you for having us. Vice Chairman Kara, congratulations. And it's like the first time we've met, but
Yeah.
wow. Thank you. Congratulations to your family.
I know.
Awesome.
He'll be running for mayor.
You can't, I'm writing them in committee.
So the instructional leadership team is made up of the 5 grade level coordinators and our fearless leaders, Mrs. Coleman, Louis Soto, and Patty Mackay. The grade level coordinators, we're the acting liaisons for, you know, our grade level teams and, you know, the administration team. That two-way communication is really important to us. I like to consider ourselves, you know, we're like the captains on the front lines, you know. We're in the thick of it. And we can always report back to our administration team. For kindergarten, Amy Ulinski, she's been in education for 9 years. First grade, Jennifer Kelly, she's been in education for 18 plus years. In second grade, Deb Castellani, who is unable to be here, but she's been in education for 20 years. Third grade, Jill Recchia, she has been teaching for 20 plus years, and I'm the grade level coordinator for fourth grade, and this is my 5th year. So as you can see, we have a variety of experiences in terms of, you know, duration of experience. And I can tell you we all bring a lot of different experience to the table. But even with such variety, our team definitely shares the same passion for learning. We share an enthusiasm for creating positive change at Park Ave. And because of all of our varying experiences, everybody brings a unique skill set to the team, and that makes for a really dynamic and effective team. So why does our team exist? Why are we important? First of all, you know, I'm going to list off 3 key elements, and these key elements come right from our turnaround plan. So right away, we are a direct result of, you know, that turnaround plan, you know, in a flash right in front of you. So first of all, distribution of leadership. You know, teachers are placed in leadership roles, you know. Second, we're striving for more effective and efficient two-way communication between teachers and administration. How does that communication look like? Well, a lot of it comes from, you know, the grade level coordinators. And third, we're analyzing and interpreting multiple measures of data to provide a quality education for all students. And I'll talk a little bit more about that on the next slide. So you know who we are, you know why we exist, and what are some of the things that are now happening at Park Ave because we're there and through all the work that we're doing. First and foremost, teachers feel empowered. I know the team definitely feels empowered. We have a great administration team that listens to us, and we get to bring a lot of things back to our grade level teams. Because of that, you know, because of having a voice, a lot of the work that we're doing now is ownership versus compliance. It's not, we have to do this because we're supposed to. It's, we want to do this because it's ours, right? And obviously, along with this is increased motivation for everyone, you know? Consistency and clarity with what we bring to our grade level teams. I think all of the teachers on the instructional leadership team could tell you that communication from admin to teachers, consistency is really hard. A lot of times, not everyone is getting the same message, right? Somewhere down the line, that message gets confused. But with the instructional leadership team, we have a shared focus. We have shared goals. The message is consistent. I put different lenses, and in parentheses, I put data, improved instruction, and communication, because even though we have the big goals that we're always working towards, we're always working on, using our data to inform our instruction. We're working on improving our instruction, like what's been talked a little bit about already. Trying to figure out, we know what the students are working on or need help with, but what's the best way to target and instruct those students on some of the things they're challenged with, and communication. But I put different lenses up there. We put different lenses up there because every meeting has a very different lens, even though all the work that we're doing is always towards those major goals, right? And something else I know we would all agree with is aligning a school horizontally and vertically. And for those of you that don't necessarily understand what I'm talking about, I'm sure a lot of you do, aligning horizontally is, does everybody in the same grade, are they all on the same page, right? And then vertically is every grade on the same page? And I think the instructional leadership team has done a lot of work, and kind of naturally through our work, we're starting to horizontally and vertically align, which is really challenging. We're building team capacity, not only instructional leadership team, but all grade level teams. We're starting to target individual strengths, and we're starting to learn from one another. So it's not necessarily about bringing in resources to educate our teachers or to educate us, even though that's great, but we're starting to learn more within our own community at Park Ave. And really importantly, we're building trusting relationships. We're using a variety of formative assessment data to identify student needs. Thank God everybody on the instructional leadership team likes data, because we're looking at numbers nonstop. And we're looking at MCAS data, we're looking at reading fluency data, we're looking at some of our reading assessments from our new Wonders program, and the list goes on and on. And by looking at this data, we're able to do things like develop literacy groups, target those students who really are having challenges with specific skills, because it's not about a student being, whether a student is high performing or a student is having some challenges, every single student has something they can work on. So something we've been doing a lot of is figuring out, regardless of who that student is, what do they need to work on, and where can we group them where they're going to be the most successful. And the other part that comes out of data is, a lot of times when we're discussing data, yes, we've identified what students are struggling with, but now what's the next step after that? So we're establishing ways to reteach and reinforce content. When are we going to do that during the day? And what is that going to look like? We're implementing right now a new Wonders program, a new literacy program called Wonders. And it's been a really challenging year. And that's to be expected, because anytime you're implementing something new, there's going to be a lot of bumps along the way. And part of what the instructional leadership team has done is we've had quality conversations and developed different tasks with our leadership team, our admin team, to really try to iron those things out and make that as easy for the rest of the teaching staff as we can. So sharing best practices. We don't always get a chance to go into each other's classrooms to see what's working and what we're doing. So sharing best practices, developing ways to adapt the program to best fit our students. Wonders is a great program. A lot of teachers like it, but it's not one program fits all, right? We're trying to fit Wonders to our students, and that's going to look different at Park Ave than it looks somewhere else. And we're designing and modifying assessments. This program comes with a lot of great assessments that's going to give us quality information, with that data, but we have specific things we might be looking for. So we've been doing a lot of work with actually maybe modifying those assessments a little bit. And currently, we're looking at school-wide data, and we kind of have along the way, but right now a lot of our work is going into looking at school-wide data and trying to figure out what are those next steps going to be for our school improvement plan. And that feels great to be on the instructional leadership team and to be, the teachers, and to have some say in, this is what we're seeing, and I think this is what has to happen next, right? And then my last slide, our last slide, we're helping to create a professional learning community. So, a lot of the work that we're doing is developing a professional learning community. I put practice makes permanent. That's one of my favorite sayings. Practice does make permanent. So if we are practicing, if we have practices that are maybe not the most effective, and we're doing that over and over again, that practice is going to make permanent. So we're permanently going to be doing the wrong things. With the help of the instructional leadership team and our admin, I think a lot of the things that we're doing right now are the right things, right? Or I know they're the right things, right? And as we continue to do this through consistency, this is going to be a cultural change we see at Park Ave. So thank you, and thank you to the instructional leadership team and to the admin.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr.
If
Green.
anybody has any questions for us, we'd be more than happy to answer any.
Any questions or comments from the committee?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
What I liked about your presentation is it's teacher focused, and it revolves around what you as groups of teachers can do to improve your practices. It's reflective versus talking about what's wrong with the kids. So I appreciate the way that it was presented, and I imagine that we'll see greater success with the data, because we've also reviewed the data. It was not good. And
Well, that was at the beginning.
so, right, but the way that this is laid out, like I said, it focuses on supporting teachers in a way to deliver the best instruction to the students. So, thank you.
Thank you for saying that, and that's definitely a big focus. Is we always, a lot of people talk about, like, should we add more instruction, right? Should we lengthen a school day? Should we do this, right?
Exactly.
That's not what it's about. I
Right.
think a lot of us agree that it's really the quality of the instruction and how you're actually using those minutes you already have.
Right.
Right.
I did just have a couple of questions. How often do you meet first as a ILT, and then how often do you meet as a grade level team?
Well, that's a interesting question, because I feel like even though on paper we're meeting around once a month, we're meeting really all the time.
Okay.
Really, it's a really fluid process that we've kind of developed. So the ILT team meets once a month, and correct me if I'm wrong, but grade level teams are meeting as many times as they want to.
So most
So
of
there's
the
no
grade levels,
set
we do have structured times that we meet. So we have once a
Common
month
planning
meet,
time?
and they do common planning time. So the grade levels meet twice a week for CPT times, where they bring that back to their, what we talk about at the instructional leadership team, they bring that back to the CPT.
Okay.
And admin participates in the CPT as well, not all of them, because they need time without admin there so that they can flush it out too. That needs to also be a safe place. And then in addition, we've met with the DSAC team above and beyond that as an ILT.
I also wanted to mention that the creation of the ILT came as a direct result of us being awarded the grant, the turnaround grant. And so that was awarded in November. So the beginning of the ILT was January. So given that, and what they've done already, what we've been able to collaborate with and do already is pretty significant, since we've only begun in doing this work since January.
Anyone else? Mr. Chair. Oh,
You all-
Kath, you have more
Yes,
questions?
thank
Oh, sorry.
Are you good? Yes.
Just a question for the group. What was your reaction when you heard that the instructional leadership team was something that was going to happen, and any surprises you encountered as you've gotten underway?
Can I just interrupt because people can't hear you who are watching? Thank you.
I was glad to see it come back, because we used to have grade level coordinators at Park Ave a few years ago. So being at Park Ave for 12 or more years, I was really happy to see it come back, especially having a new administration team. It's really nice to be able to have that two-way communication. So I was really happy, actually.
I would agree with that. I think what makes me happiest to be part of the team is to have a seat at the table to represent my team as well. So looking at myself as the liaison for, I mean, I know my team very well, and but we have a very big school, so having the opportunity to have that monthly meeting, to build connections that are those, I always, even in third grade, vertical horizon.
You're right.
Vertical, those vertical connections which are so important, and because our school is new, we're going through our growing pains of, you know, we all came together in a different configuration, we're meeting different professionals, we're in a school that is much bigger than many of us have ever been a part of before, we have new administration team, so there have been a lot of changes, but this change really feels like movement in the right direction. To have a seat at the table with so many professionals that are invested in our students and are also invested in making themselves better. We have a really nice professional environment, and this gives us a chance to encourage that. You know, encourage it in our teams, bring it to the table. We are feeling very heard, and together, I think that's the way that true success is achieved.
Jill, could you share the analogy that you shared with me the other day?
The lawnmower, I use that again. It's like my new favorite one. Yeah, it's my thing.
We're
I
going to
use
steal
with
it, by the
kids
way, so
today.
tomorrow it'll be my analogy.
I said, you know how, I said, I've been in Webster since 1993. I took 12 years off to raise my kiddos, but I was a third grade teacher at Sikowski. Then I was a first grade teacher at the old Park Ave. My love that building. I was so sad to see that go. And then coming back after my kids were 12, I came back and was at Park Ave, then at the middle school. So I've been through a lot of Webster changes, and I love Webster. I live in Grafton, so I have to drive to get here, and I love coming here. And this makes me feel really great about my professional choice of being here. But I said, I've seen a lot of the starts that we've gone through over the years, and I equated it to like a lawnmower, where you're pulling at that ripcord to get it started. And everybody's had the nice, right intentions of getting going. We're going to make this go. We're going to make this go. We're going to make this go. Right. And it's never caught. This ILT, this leadership opportunity where we all have a chance to talk to each other, makes me feel like the motor's running, like we finally ripped it into action. So I'm very proud of this. I'm proud of our school.
Anything?
Did you want to go ahead?
I just want to comment on how exciting it is for me as a new leader here to see teachers be passionate and engaged and willing to look deeper at their own professional practice, willing to share their best practices amongst each other. It's happening here. And I met with this team the other day and left, and it was probably one of the days I will never forget here, because you put a plan in motion, and the plan includes everybody. And so we want teachers to have a voice, and they're beginning to have a voice. And so kudos to you. Continue the hard work. We're just at the beginning. So remember what I said at the beginning of the year, buckle up. Make sure you're buckled.
Let me just, again, on behalf of the committee, thank you for joining us this evening. I know everybody's busy with their personal and professional lives. And as a parent and a school committee member now for 4 years, you have no idea how excited I am to hear the PBIS update and your update. Because what it says to me is, you call it the lawnmower analogy, I call it the incredibly frustrated parent analogy. That for many, many years, and honestly, at times a very frustrated school committee member, because we would hear about these programs. And in retrospect, it was an incredibly difficult process to go from a K through 2, pre-K through 2, kind of your own little world, controllable building, to almost 900 students, which blows my mind. And Mr. McCarron and I have been on the school building committee for 10 years, and it still blows my mind. But to hear that you as a leadership team in conjunction with the teachers took a step back and said, okay, what is working and what isn't, both from a behavior standpoint as well as an instruction standpoint. And obviously, they go hand in hand. So I'm thrilled to hear what was presented this evening. Again, congratulations to Mrs. Gogan and Mrs. Coleman and everybody in the building, because we hear a lot of this information presented to us and we always believe what's going on. But in any organization, you're never quite sure, A, what you're going to implement, is it going to be effective? And B, the people that are actually, you're hoping, take what you want to have change are actually going to endorse the change and move forward. And so it's exciting.
Yes.
And again, thank you for your many, many years of service to our kids and for all the effort that you've put in since January. So I guess they were kind of saying the results may take a little bit, but we'll be patient, right?
Mhm. I think they're seeing results. I think if you were to ask them if they were seeing results, do you feel like you're seeing it in your classrooms and in the building? Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Speaking of, again, a parent perspective, new committee member, actually new parent too, my daughter's only in first grade. Being aware of the changes that are happening as they're happening is a really helpful thing so that we can support our kids at home. And sometimes, especially with behavior modification, we're not giving pause out at home, right? But there are certain things that might be happening in the classroom that we can mirror at home that will make the school's life easier and also make our own life easier. And I know I had a lot of parents come to me at the beginning of the year asking about the pause program. We had a lot of misinformation. We were informed that the pause were back and that, they were on order and that they would be, I think it was the January school committee meeting that we were told that they were back and that they had a problem with
In
the
their
invoice
rewards,
and all that
yep.
kind of thing. So that led to misinformation being relayed to me that I then relayed to other parents, and a lot of people had been asking about that, and I think getting out in front of those things is going to be helpful as feedback on the PBIS piece, but it is great to hear what's happening. And with regard to the ILT, I think taking a page out of that book and maybe sending something to the parents, from the grade 1 team, from the grade 2 team, these are really exciting things that are happening. And if parents don't know, then you're not going to get the credit that you deserve. This is a lot of work, and it looks like a lot of effort has already gone into it. And that vertical and horizontal alignment has been something that I have been really craving for the last only 1.5, almost 2 years. And to know that it's already being implemented is really exciting. So get your credit. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from the committee? Again, thank you. And I think you have one more.
I just wanted to let you know, we had some other wonderful things happening at Park Ave. I mean, there's so many, I'll keep it brief. But we do have a spring concert that's coming up, and so June 18th and 19th, and all of these are on our website. So they're on our website, they've been put out to the parents, they're on the superintendent's website, our main website. So the concert is the 18th and the 19th. We have the graduates on parade, so we've worked with the high school, and they'll be coming over, and all of our kiddos will be lined up, making signs, congratulating all of our seniors that will be walking, will be playing their song, and just wishing them well. And that's on the 5th. We have our carnival, the PTO's putting on the carnival, and that's on Cinco de Mayo, right after Mrs. Gogan's open house. So after you hit the open house, please come over and have some cotton candy and jump in the bounce house. It should be lovely. We've been fortunate enough to, this month, our Student of the Month, we do have some dignitaries that will be joining us, as well as other districts that will be looking at our breakfast in the classroom and then taking a part in our Student of the Month recognition to see just what it is and how we're doing. Some field trips coming up. We're going to Roger Williams Zoo, Sturbridge Village, the Boston Science Museum, which we also wrote a grant for. Thank you to Mr. Green for also writing that grant. I worked with Ellen Nyland. We wrote another grant to go to Whittier Farms, so that's another free field trip for kindergarten with our collaboration, the Southwick Zoo. They're also hiking Wachusett Mountain. And so we have quite a bit of things that are happening there in addition to the academics, because we are looking at, the whole child and balancing it out. So you're welcome. Please volunteer, get your Corys. We love to have volunteers into the school. Our seniors that have come have been dynamic, and we've appreciated them in every capacity. So thank you. And thank you to my team. You all did a dynamic job tonight. I couldn't be prouder.
Any questions or comments for Mrs. Coleman? Hearing none, thank you very much. Moving on, the business manager's report. Good evening once again, Mrs. Perangeli.
Good evening, thank you. I only have one thing on the agenda tonight. I just wanted to give an update on some relief money that we are receiving, hurricane relief from Puerto Rico. We had sent in some updates to the state and they allocated some funds. I don't know if you've seen a recent article in the Worcester Telegram and Gazette that released the amounts of funds that local communities will be getting. Webster is in line to receive a payment either tomorrow or the next day in the amount of $31,355. We currently have 14 students who were displaced because of the hurricane. We sent in data as of March 1st. As the state, they've come up with their crazy little formulas to determine how much revenue we will receive. They took a look at our foundation per pupil expenditure for FY18, which was $11,275. They then took a look at the percentage of Chapter 70 of the foundation that we received, which is 54.65%. So they took the $11,275 and multiplied that by our foundation per pupil, which is the 54.65%, to get a $6,162. They then got a daily rate, so they divided that by 180 school days to come up with $34.23 for a daily rate. They then multiplied that by the number of days the 14 students were in school, their membership, so 916 days to get the total reimbursement of our first payment. So that totaled $31,355. So we should be receiving that any day. They're treating it like a grant, although they're not making us draw it down monthly. They're just going to give us the allocation. And we're allowed to carry that allocation over for 1 year. So we have to spend it by the end of fiscal 2019. They told us that they will be releasing a second payment. They're hoping to do that by the end of June. So they'll be asking us for data again. But just doing some quick math on their formula, if all of those kids are still here, which I don't know that they are, but if all 14 students are still here and there's approximately 70 days of school left, that would give them 980 days times their daily rate of $34.23. That would give us another $33,000.
Wow.
So that'll, give us a little bit of money in our accounts that we'll need to expend by the end of next year to look at. But I thought that was some good news. Frankly, I didn't expect that much when we initially were looking at displaced students. I didn't think we had that much, but as time went on and we were looking and researching on 14 students, and I'm not sure if we received any more, but we're taking a look at that and we'll update the data in June, they said. So that's some good news on our end. And that concludes my report.
Any questions or comments for Mrs. Perangeli? Thank you very much for the algebra test this evening at a very late hour. Jumping forward, we are now into old business. The first item under old business is the second reading of policy AC non-discrimination. As Mrs. Gogan presented at our last meeting, effective April 1st, the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act was amended. MASC has recommended language for several policies. This is the second reading of the amended language to policy AC non-discrimination. Did I forget anything, Mrs. Gogan?
No.
Any comments or questions from the committee? Hearing none, that will constitute the second reading of policy AC non-discrimination. Next item on the agenda is the second reading of policy GBA equal employment opportunity. Same rationale with the enactment of the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. Any questions or comments regarding policy GBA and the amended language? Hearing none, that will constitute the second reading of policy GBA. Next item on the agenda is the second reading of policy GCF, professional staff hiring, once again due to the changes in the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. Any questions or comments from the committee regarding the amended language? Hearing none, that will constitute the second reading of policy GCF. Next item on the agenda is second reading of policy JB, equal employment opportunities. Once again, due to the changes in the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act, the language has been amended as recommended by MASC. Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, that will constitute the second reading of policy JB, equal employment opportunities. Next item on the agenda is the monitoring site visit report. Mrs. Gogan.
Thank you.
As you know, American Institute for Research has been working with our schools, and they have concluded their annual monitoring site visit report, and you have a copy of that in front of you. I will let you know that this annual report was the result of them coming out for a 2-day site visit where they met with teachers and conducted interviews and collected surveys and did observations. The report is very detailed. I will give you a brief overview. It is, I believe, for Mrs. Coleman, a starting point. It does speak about areas that need focus, and which we are working on. Areas in communication, establishing that two-way communication with teachers, providing autonomy for both leaders and teachers, and making sure that there's consistent structures in place for curriculum consistency, for assessment, data analysis. So I would say that the report, as detailed as it is very informational, to be used with the ILT team to continue to grow at Park Ave Elementary. It really does state that the Park Ave is really at the very early developmental stages of building the two-way communication in the school, and it does show you that there's mixed feelings about the existing school culture. And I think you're aware of that as the school leader, and I think the ILT team is aware of that. So this is a snapshot, and I wanted you to take a look at that.
I also think that's important because they're with a new team and with a new leader and with a lot of start and stops with different initiatives. I think people are just like, okay, are we going to sustain this? Is there going to be that continuity? And so I think some of what came out and some of the discussion at the ILT team when we first took a look at this was, yeah, that might be where they truly are. That might be where they feel because they're waiting to see what will happen. Like, will this continue? And so they're hesitant, and I don't blame them because they've gotten on board and then it's come away. So I think it's a real true reflection. I was happy they were honest. It was really meaningful. That's what we wanted.
And the turnaround practices, they're at the developing stage, and I think it's a great tool to use to build off of.
I agree completely.
And that concludes my,
All this?
yes.
Any questions or comments from the committee regarding the Park Ave monitoring site visit? Is this similar to the report that we were presented last year? Was an analysis done to compare the findings of last year versus the findings of this current report?
Yeah, well, yes, we're actually doing that so that we can write the second part of the grant for year 2. We need to do the comparisons.
And if you look at page D1 at the report, that gives you the breakdown. And what you'll notice is, we wouldn't expect that because this was done in February. So we were just a few months in, if you figure, and you think of all the hiring and all the staffing changes that we went through at the beginning of the year. We had already hit providing and sustaining in areas. And so with the newness of everything, I thought that was a real trend. And the areas that we hit them were high expectations. It was in the use of data. It was in administrative walkthroughs. And so some of the things that will really drive the direction of the schools and the teachers. So
That was actually going to be my point/question, because without memorizing the old report and knowing that a lot of what you're trying to do with your new teacher leaders, there's some good news in here.
there's really good news.
I mean, there's still a lot of work to be done, and no one's denying that.
Yeah.
But there weren't many categories, from what I recall, that were sustaining or,
No,
there was a lot, everything was much further to the left
exactly.
of the grid. So,
So it shows some growth. And you did get a result, the packet back in February of the monitoring site observations. So you have both of the reports.
And there was growth in those areas.
I think it's very helpful when auditors come in and give feedback because they really do have a different lens. And that, we want people we want to hear the voices of what's going on. And sometimes we think we're communicating something to someone, but they don't get the information. And so it's putting the school and the district in the constant motion of being reflective about your practices and asking for feedback. And we're sort of starting that cycle, so I'm quite pleased.
Good. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, just for the record, I just want to take a moment to step back to item D. On the agenda, it lists second reading JB equal employment opportunities, and the actual name of the policy is equal educational opportunities. So I didn't catch that until after Mrs. Gogan started, and I didn't want to interrupt her. So I just wanted to correct that for the record, that the actual policy is equal educational opportunities. Moving on with the agenda, next item on the agenda under old business is review of town meeting article. Mrs. Prangeli.
Thank you. This is just an update. We've got some financial figures back. When the article was originally written, there was no dollar amount in there. I spoke with Kenny Pizzetti. He came over, he measured, he looked at the area of material that we would need. He says we need about $21,000 in overlay and tar that would fill the whole back area. His area concern was closer to the building. He said if he overlaid up by the building, it was going to change the pitch and the water would have run towards the building, not run away from the building. Because it's level right now with the concrete at the building. So his recommendation is that they would have to contract out and have somebody come in and mill down the tar in order to do it properly, in order to fill it. He said that can cost between anywhere from $9,000 to $11,000. So adding that to the 21, and if you throw in a few $1,000s for landscaping, we would be looking for $35,000 at the town meeting to approve this article. And I just think it's important to note out, I know that in a lot of our discussions and a lot of our meetings with the finance, Mr. Finnemore has always asked, you know, what is, the school department doesn't give any money back, doesn't give money back to free cash. But I disagree with that. We bring in $450,000 to the town in Medicaid reimbursements. Last year, we had $100,000 left in transportation that we didn't spend. That went back to the town. What am I missing? There were a couple things that we looked at, and
Premium holiday.
a premium holiday, there was $300,000 in a premium holiday in health insurance that the unions agreed to work with the town and give back to the town. So we are doing our share in giving back to the town, and I don't think it's inappropriate to go to town meeting and ask for $35,000. This is a capital expense. It's not something that we would build into our budget typically. It would be supported by capital projects. There were a couple points that were brought up by Mr. Gabor in our meeting. He came over and met with us to discuss the article. And I don't disagree. He's right that we need to do a better job of maintaining. You know, I'm not a road guy. I don't know all the aspects of roads and maintenance of roads, but, you know, he did drive. I will soon. I've learned a lot. But, you know, to his point, he drove around our grounds, and, you know, all the tar coming into Bartlett now is new. But if you look at the middle school, you know, there are cracks in the driveway. Well, we're not having those cracks sealed. Sealing those cracks every year could, you know, improve the longevity of our lots. And he's right. So that's something we need to look at. So that's something I will work with Mr. Pizzetti on, you know, maybe a summer project or something that he could come in. We'll work with cost and, you know, add that to our to-do list to maintain our facilities, because we want to maintain them. You know, we take a lot of pride in them. The guys work hard in the buildings, they work hard in the grounds, and we want our areas to last long. So that was a point well taken, and it's something that I will continue to look for. But I think it would be in the best interest. You know, we do have some uneven ground out there. It's really pitching down towards the grate. I think that area needs to be fixed. It's a high-traffic area. We have people in and out, so for safety, I think it's something that we shouldn't hesitate to ask for at town meeting.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, I don't disagree. Thank you very much. Was that it?
Yeah, that was
Okay,
it.
thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on, under new business, the first item is the first reading policy JFBB school choice. similar to the second readings that we looked over in old business, this policy has been amended based on the changes from the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. Again, for those that may be watching, it is school committee policy that whenever there's a new policy and/or changes to an existing policy, there are 3 readings before the policy, assuming the committee approves, is approved at the 3rd meeting that we review it. So this is the first reading for policy JFBB, school choice. Anything additional, Mrs. Gogan?
No.
Any comments or questions from the committee? Mrs.
Chair.
Naprata, yes.
So, what are the changes?
The last sentence, pregnancy or pregnancy-related conditions.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, that constitutes the first reading of the amended policy JFBB, school choice. Next item on the agenda is the approval of adoption of McGraw-Hill Wonders program. Mrs. Gogan.
Thank you. As you know, we've been piloting the Wonders reading program. You've heard about it all year long. I'm going to ask Janice Daniels to speak a little bit about the program and the year, and we're bringing it to you for approval tonight, but I'd like you to hear some details from her.
Thank you, Mrs. Gogan. The last time I came to the committee to ask for a program to be adopted, it was, I believe, in 2007. And Mr. McCara, I'm pretty sure that you were at that meeting. Do you remember it? So at that time, we did adopt the program, and we went through the full-blown 2-year, committee work and came to a conclusion that we needed to buy this program. And over the years, that program served us quite well, and we were making some really good gains. But what happened was that in 2011, Common Core came, and the Massachusetts, adopted their curriculum frameworks, which brought in some really rigorous, high expectations in the standards in the curriculum that we needed to teach. And over the years, at the budget level, our local budget level, our curriculum renewal cycle was seeing a cut every year. So our whole cycle got off whack, if I can say that. And what we had to do is more or less do a patchwork curriculum. We were buying, and probably centered more around interventions. We wanted to fix things with what we were doing with kids that were at risk in reading, as opposed to really taking a look at doing a new core curriculum. So when new administration was coming on, I had the idea of, before Mrs. Gogan and Mrs. Coleman came on, that I was going to do a mini pilot of this McGraw-Hill Wonders program. I had been hearing from my colleagues out in, my networking with other reading coordinators and principals were having great success in their schools. And I knew that there was this really huge sense of urgency at Park Ave, being at the 1 percentile. And we didn't have time. We didn't have time to really do a complete, full-blown 1 to 2 year process in choosing, in the way of a more traditional committee work in choosing a program. So Mrs. Gogan came on, I said, I'm going to do this little mini pilot. And when I told her what program it was, she goes, oh my goodness. She had just done that in her previous district. And then I think it was at your interview, came to light that Mrs. Coleman also had great success with the McGraw-Hill Wonders program. So it kind of made sense. The 3 of us just got together, and we had to make a decision of doing a pilot. But if you know Mrs. Gogan, she's like, we're not going to do a little one. Don't worry, Jan. We are going to do everyone pre-K to 5. I'm like, no, it will not happen. The company will not. Don't worry about it. And she was right. McGraw-Hill graciously agreed to let us pilot. It is almost unheard of to have the trust in a company to give out thousands, and I mean thousands of dollars. When you see the numbers, it's pretty staggering. So we said, let's bring the teachers in. We held 2 overviews in this last summer. One was July 27th. That was pretty much for the K-2 staff, pre-K to 2 staff. And then we held it on August 24th for grades 3 to 5. We just wanted them to come in. We brought the company in, just here's an overview of what we're thinking of doing. We know we have to do this. So that led, the teachers were just all over it. They really embraced it and they wanted it. So Mrs. Gogan did her magic, and all the materials magically came. And Mrs. Coleman had to unpack everything. One weekend, was it one weekend? Absolutely. So with that said, you can do a pilot, but if you don't have the structures in place to support the teachers with all that resource, it's just not, you will have them fail. And we did not want that to happen. So again, working with the consultant from McGraw-Hill, we booked them solid for the professional, all of our professional development days, the 4 of the full days, and then all of the half days. We had them secured right from the very beginning, and that's reflected on the last page of your little packet that we just provided you. And you can see all the days for the PD and basically a synopsis of what they were provided with. What's not on this sheet is we also, Mrs. Gogan and her team and the literacy coach, Tara Gelino and Patty Mackay, in the meantime, are actually in conjunction with the consultants coming in. They also provided in-service mini workshops, not only during the majority of the full day and half-day professional developments, but throughout the week in your grade level meetings, CPT times, and all of that. So we knew that, that we had that support for the teachers. After many of the professional developments, more of the full days, the curriculum office, I'd sent out a survey to gather feedback from the teachers, and I have all of that available. And it was pretty positive right from the get-go. I did many walkthroughs, and some days I'd start from kindergarten and work my way up, and other days I'd start from 4th grade, and I would walk through the entire building during the literacy block time, and as the year went on, I was just more and more impressed with what I was seeing, what I was hoping to see all these years, where there was consistent small group instruction going. And we know to make kids really more successful at all levels, it's about the small group instruction and well-planned lessons. And I was very impressed, and I thank you for your leadership on that and the work of the teachers. That really, Brendan said it, it's been a very difficult year when you have to embrace a program and try it out. So I want to get back to the front of the document and show you the layout. So at the very end, we knew that we needed to come to you for the official adoption of the program. And so I sent out another survey. 32 teachers actually took it and provided us feedback. Now, I'm not going to read all of them, but 30 out of the 32 said yes to officially adopting, because we wanted their voice in this, because again, it's about the two-way communication. But I do want to highlight some of their voices. Instead of me telling everything wonderful or Mrs. Coleman saying everything wonderful about the program, I want you to hear it from them. So I'm going to just jump to number 4. And excuse me for reading it aloud. I believe this program offers the rigor and provides a strong foundation to build upon. It unifies the language for the staff and students and provides equal opportunity for students to access the same content regardless of the classroom or teacher they have. I'd like you to jump down to number 13. You can read all the rest maybe tomorrow night. The program includes the essential components of any strong literacy program. It's not so much the program that Park Ave needs to focus on. It's implementing the program with integrity, using data to inform classroom decisions that will make the biggest impact. Just a few more on this next page. Number 17. The content is rich. Our grade level has a common basis for our ELA program that is on grade level. That is key. We were not teaching on grade level for many years. And there are many useful components to the program to help teachers and students. I love number 19, the stories are engaging, yay. That's huge. Number 25, the program contains many nonfiction stories. We had to beef up our nonfiction selections to keep up with what the expectation was in the Common Core, Mass Frameworks. And lastly, number 29, I love how everything is all in one place, and I'm not having to search for my own phonics and comprehension activities. I also love how it all relates to a theme, and each week has an essential question. My favorite part about this program is that our entire team/grade level is all doing basically the same or similar activities, and the skills and strategies are being taught at about the same pace. Our CPT is more productive when we are all working on the same thing together. And if you could just go to the back page, because I bet you're wondering how we're going to pay for all this. The estimated cost, now this is the reduced amount, and I want to say, if we were to purchase everything, you're talking about a $450,000 ticket for pre-K to 5. And when you're doing this, they reduce and give you a lot of free products. And I know Mrs. Gogan was working behind closed doors late with the consultant. But the estimated costs, and we have another meeting to finalize the cost May 2nd, for the pre-K to 5 is $193,163. That includes a 6-year renewal subscription bundle that I know you would be happy to know, that for the next 6 years, we will have all the digital access components, and we won't have to, well, we're not going to purchase any workbooks, but this is pretty secure for 6 years, which kind of fits in nicely with the updated new curriculum renewal cycle that I developed over this past year. So Park Ave, the underperforming grant, will fund $163,067 of it, which leaves us to fund the $30,086, which is the 5th grade, because the 5th grade can't be paid with the underperforming grant. So that has to go under the LEA, which goes under the curriculum renewal. And the way I'm proposing to break it out is to pay with the FY18, we have a $20,000 budget right now, and I've already proposed it to Monique and Mrs. Gogan to pay for that, and then use some of the 19 that's coming, so we'll have about $10,086 to pay for next year. And that's my story.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Or comments from the committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. McCara?
it's obvious to me the lawnmower is running.
It is. And we welcome any of you to walk through. I'll take you through those classrooms. It really is, it's a wonderful feeling at every grade level.
And that's the whole thing, every grade level, you know?
Including grade 5. Now, grade 5 obviously is in another building, and we're providing them all, they've been participating in the majority of the professional developments. We've given them even their own, and we're supporting them as being that, that lone grade level in another building, but they're doing okay with it. They're doing well.
Mr. Chair. It's amazing to have such an overwhelmingly positive response from teachers. I feel as though you don't often see that. It's more split, negative and positive, but to have so many more positive, and I mean, that shows their belief in it and their investment moving forward. So that's more than half the battle, really. So my only other comment or question, and I know this had happened a couple of years ago, but possibly in the fall, maybe having a parents' night where the program is explained in great detail. I know that that was done when Foundations was implemented, and I found it to be very helpful for parents, and I think giving parents the opportunity to understand the inner workings of this program would be good.
I think that's a great recommendation, and I think the first year for the teachers to learn the program has been, you know, a lot of challenges. And I don't think a parent evening would have been effective the first year. I think a second year, everybody's got it under their belt. They'd be able to explain the program in much more detail. And I'm pleased that we're seeing positive results. And it is a struggle to learn a new program. So I think there's been some bumps across the way for teachers, which is expected. And our main goal is to support them in that. This is a resource. It's never one program to fix a problem. We still need quality teaching. You still need teachers to be looking at data. One of the exciting things here is that teachers are receptive to new things. And we are looking at the complementary sister program of Wonders called Study Sync for grades 6 through 12. And we've brought that in, and we had a team of teachers take a look at that program, and they were in this room for an entire day looking at the program and left and said, "Can I get it now?" So there's a level of, can I pilot this now? So things are moving and changing. And I personally want to thank our teachers and Jan and Ginger for their support with helping the teachers. And we've had an awesome consultant who's been this, Kristen Delphon, who is just amazing with the teachers, and the teachers can reach out to her when they need support. It's been good. So I'm looking for the school committee to approve my recommendation of adopting Wonders.
Chairman?
Yes.
Just one other
Siddiqui,
question.
yes.
So this cost is for a 6-year subscription. What do we do at year 7? What do we anticipate that to be? We won't be purchasing the program again, right? But we'll need a subscription to maintain.
Right, we probably, and again, 6 years, you never know what's coming
I
in
know.
6 years. But I would anticipate that we would have to have a renewal. And even prior to the, I think on the year 5, we will go through like an evaluation of the program. Do we want to stick with this program? Is it working? Do we need to look at adding anything? Do we need to change? And then we want the voices of the teachers at that time. And then with that recommendation, if they say, no, we want to stay with this, we would then have to budget for another 6-year renewal cycle. For the digital, we will have all the hard copy books and everything, so.
Any other questions or comments from the committee?
Mr.
Mr.
Chair,
Hart?
I just wanted to point out that seems to be a theme tonight with, it's vertical. And I'm very pleased to see, because vertical communication and vertical curriculum has been sorely lacking for a number of years. So I just wanted to point that out. And then I'm more than happy to make a motion to approve the adoption of the McGraw-Hill Wonders program.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Just one last quick question. You might have answered it. So grade 5 was part of the pilot?
Yes,
And were they also part of this survey?
yes,
Okay.
they're reflective in here.
Any other questions or comments or discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item on the agenda is the acceptance of the Central Massachusetts Collaborative FY17 Annual Report. Again, as a reminder, we are members of 2 collaboratives, one of them being the Central Massachusetts Collaborative, and we are required by state law to accept all of their annual reports as well as their quarterly reports. Was there anything you wanted to add, Mrs. Gogan?
No.
Things are going well, I assume, at this collaborative?
I can add, yes, things are going well. They're in their new building at New Bond Street. The board did approve for a new lease for Central Mass Academy to move into Higgins Street. We're in the midst of looking at FY19 budgeting. And I'm learning a lot about the collaborative, being a member of 2 collaborative boards. it's a lot to take in. But I will say that the Central Mass Collaborative services only a few of our kids, and so we are looking to have some more detailed conversation with the executive director and our director of student services to see how we might utilize them more as a member.
So you may have answered one question I had, is that it makes sense to continue to stay in two collaboratives.
That's a great question. We do not have a lot of children there. I don't know the history of how this all developed, and I'm still on the learning curve of that.
Okay,
But it is a very good question.
fair enough. Any other questions or comments from the committee? So I will entertain a motion to accept the Central Mass Collaborative FY17 annual report.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item on the agenda is the acceptance of the Central Massachusetts Collaborative first and second quarter reports. Again, similar, we are required to accept all annual and quarterly reports of the collaboratives that we are members. Anything additional, Mrs. Gogan, you wanted to add?
No.
Any questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to accept the Central Massachusetts Collaborative Quarter 1 and 2 report.
So moved.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item on the agenda is the school choice discussion. Mrs. Gogan.
Thank you. Every year, the school committee is tasked with deciding whether they want to accept school choice students. And we have put together an attached chart for you based on our current enrollment as of April 2008, with the anticipation that we would have an additional grade 6 teacher contingent upon the FY19 budget passing. The chart details the school choice openings that could occur, and they could occur at grades 7, 9, 10, 11, and 12. I would suggest capping the grade 7 school choice at 12 openings. That would push class sizes to 24. High school classes are considerably low, so I would suggest that they would be at 12, 20, and 20 and 18 for grades 9, 10, 11, and 12 respectively. I would just also like to note that the way that we've calculated school choice openings at the high school and the way we've traditionally done it is based on how many English classes they offer. And I would just also like to know that our enrollments, as you know, we have lots of students moving in, lots of students moving out, so we always have a little bit of an ebb and flow. And the elementary school is not on here for accepting any school choice. And I think as we're moving the district forward right now, it's important for us to take care of the kids that we're servicing. I'm not sure on how many more kids are going to continue to move into Webster and register. So I would recommend at this point not accepting school choice at the elementary school for next year. This is all for next year.
And just for clarification, is this just a discussion, or are you looking for us to then at this meeting or the next meeting to actually approve what is recommended?
This meeting or the next meeting, by law, districts are required to accept school choice students unless the school committee votes not to participate prior to June 1st. Districts that participate in school choice are not required to hold a vote, though they may ask their school committees to vote to affirm this decision and or to specify which grades and how many openings are available. Although this information is not required and is not binding, districts are required to fill out a survey where their school committees vote or not. So I'm responsible to fill out a survey, and I think in years past you have placed a vote on school choice numbers.
Any questions or comments from the committee? And what is the desire of the committee?
Mr. Chairman,
Mrs. Siddiqui.
I'm in support of Superintendent Gogan's recommendation, so I'd like to make a motion to approve that recommendation.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item on the agenda is review, transfer, signing of bills, payroll, and vouchers. And Mrs. Perangeli has slid in an item under that. Approved transfer of funds between multiple accounts. Mrs. Perangeli.
Yes, as you know, in the past, we typically come to you around this time of year, end of April, early May. As we start to close out our fiscal year, we look for permission to transfer between line items. Currently, I have the authority to transfer from salary to salary, supply to a supply. But as we look towards the end of the year, we look to clean up the budget, make it nice and pretty, and transfer in between line items for any anticipated deficits or anything that we're moving. So I'm looking for permission from the school committee. I would be certainly happy to come back with line item transfers once the budget is closed out for FY18.
Mr. Chairman,
Mrs. Siddiqui.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Ms. Perangeli's request to transfer funds between multiple accounts.
Second?
There is a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I believe you'll do it anyways, but if you would just report back to us. once it's
Absolutely.
finalized. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hearing no further discussion, Laurie, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Giant clip. Oh. Oh. It's a big surprise. This one stays.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the little one.
Mrs. Perangeli, I actually had one question on the school building warrant. Do we suspect that that may be close to the final legal bills?
Yes and no.
Okay.
How's that?
Maybe.
I'll be getting some more in, but it'll be minimal. It won't be that much. We've seen the bulk of it. Most of it was labor from that day. So now it's just going to be project closeout. They're doing, finalizing some signatures and stuff like that. I also did call and told them, you know, we need to get into the closing stages of the project. So I'm closing out the budget, so they'll be working on that also.
Thank you. So once again, I just want to thank Mr. McCara for his years of service, and you will sorely be missed every second and fourth Tuesday of the month. And as I think Mrs. Gogan mentioned, please don't be a stranger. So hopefully we will see you around. And anytime you want to come sit up in the front of town meeting, you're more than welcome.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah, yo. No. Yeah, I'm not retired. So,
With that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Chair,
Mr. Shenevert.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Laurie, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes, meeting adjourned.